I'm not the most avid manga reader, but one series that really stands out to me is Yotsuba. Yotsuba is a slice of life manga written and illustrated by Kiyohiko Azuma. I remember my first experience with Yotsuba was during my early weeb days in elementary school. Our class would go to the library once a week and we'd have the option to check out whatever books we wanted. While most of my classmates would check out series like Harry Potter or Animorphs, I would run to the graphic novel section because that was where all the manga was kept. The series that usually caught my eye at the time were mainly battle shonen like Bleach or Naruto, but after a while I had read all of the battle shonen manga that they had there, so I had to broaden my horizons and be open to reading other types of manga. One of the first non-battle shonen series that I decided to read was the first volume of Yotsuba. I remember how reading this volume back then made me realize, wait, there are really good manga that aren't just two dudes trying to beat each other up? In all seriousness, Yotsuba's story really struck me back then, but even more so when I reread it as an adult. I think the best way to describe it is incredibly wholesome and the type of story that you'd read if you're having a bad day to raise your spirits. It's a manga that will have you smiling while you're reading it. The story follows Yotsuba Kawai, an energetic young girl who has just moved into a new town with her father. In each chapter, we see Yotsuba embark on some sort of adventure. The distinction between each adventure is made with the titles of the chapters. The titles are all called Yotsuba and something. While the story sounds very simple, I think what makes Yotsuba's story so compelling is how Kiyohiko Azuma is able to capture the wonders of childhood through his storytelling. He accomplishes this by presenting the story through the perspective of Yotsuba. Because Yotsuba is still a child, she doesn't have knowledge about many things that are out there in the world. However, that doesn't stop her from being incredibly curious. She questions many things around her and has a way of finding joy in things that we as adults would take for granted. I also think that the way that the other characters interact with Yotsuba is portrayed really well. Most of the characters will speak to her like an adult rather than a child. They understand that she is still a child and will ask many questions about things that are simple concepts to them, but are completely new to her. So they teach her about many things, but also realize that she may get frustrated or disheartened along the way. Having to learn how to overcome these obstacles leads to a lot of growth for Yotsuba, and even if she isn't able to accomplish something by herself, she realizes that she can always ask for help. Yotsuba isn't afraid of rejection, and her lack of a filter leads to many hilarious character interactions throughout the story. Touching on this also made me consider how Yotsuba despises Yanda because he talks to her and treats her like a kid. While Yanda may be seen as a bad influence for Yotsuba, it is funny to see how petty they can be towards each other. His hilarious interactions with Yotsuba are what make him my favorite character in the manga. Getting back to the story, another great aspect of Azuma'S storytelling is the way that he is able to convey a certain feeling and move the story forward with his art. A great example of this is during the beach chapter. During this chapter, Yotsuba thinks that she is about to go to the beach that day and gets ready. However, her dad says that they aren't going. Then in the next panel, he looks up at the sky and there are a bunch of summary images. Thinking about these images causes him to change his decision. With a lack of dialogue at times, Azuma's approach to storytelling seems very show rather than tell. There are a lot of pages with little to no dialogue, where we can just interpret what's going on without the characters saying anything at all. While I love this aspect of Azuma's art, the aspect of his art that stands out the most to me are his incredibly detailed backgrounds. It honestly seems like he is flexing at times. While I think Azuma's art is great, he's actually pretty hard on himself about it. He mentioned in an interview that he doesn't think that he's that good of an artist. I'm better than people who are bad, but I'm worse than people who are good. People who are good at drawing are able to draw the same thing faster. I'm slow at finding the right way to draw things. If I were better at drawing, I think I'd be able to do it somewhat faster. There are probably a lot of reasons behind this, but there are many long gaps between Yotsuba's volume releases. While Azuma may take longer than other mangaka to draw and release chapters, he doesn't necessarily need to release that many volumes of Yotsuba, because the manga sells incredibly well without having an anime. This is important because mangaka are known to make most of their money from manga volume sales, and anime adaptations help advertise the source material to boost these sales. Also, speaking of anime adaptations, for the longest time, I always heard rumors that Yotsuba wouldn't get an anime adaptation because the mangaka of the series, Kiyohiko Azuma, was unhappy with the way that the anime adaptation of his previous manga, Azumanga Daihou, turned out. However, after searching online while researching for this video, I found an Anime News Network article that reported on a statement made by Azuma on his own personal blog that denied these rumors. Azuma emphatically states that the new rumors are false, and laughs at the notion that there is friction between him and director Hiroshi Nishikiori or voice actors Tomoko Kanetomo Kaneda Chiyo. Still, he acknowledges it is not good to have two people competing for control of an anime production. Azuma explains that the reason that a Yotsuba anime has not been attempted so far is the the difficulty of adapting its idiosyncratic storytelling. While Azuma's stance on this seems pretty solidified, the statement was made in a blog post released over a decade ago. I think his stance on the matter may have loosened up a bit over the years, because there was a spin-off anime series called Nyanbo that followed cat versions of Danbo from Yotsuba, which aired in 2016. This is important because during the end credits for this anime, we get to see Yotsuba animated for a brief moment. While an anime adaptation is still very unlikely, it seems like Azuma isn't completely against the idea of the characters being presented in other media. Speaking of the use of the characters in other media, something unique to this series is that it actually has two soundtracks, composed by Masaki Kurihara and performed by Kuricorder Pop Orchestra. The first soundtrack follows Yotsuba throughout the course of a typical day, and the second album depicts the season of winter. It's also the background music that I used for this video. Also, more or less importantly, depending on who you are I guess, Yotsuba is also considered to be the mascot of 4chan, a popular anonymous image board website. Her image often appears in banned user messages and HTTP 404 pages, whenever a file can't be found. This led users to give her the nickname 404 Girl. There are other references to her character on the website as well, such as the logo of the website being 4 green heart-shaped clover leaves. This is a reference to Yotsuba's hair, which is in the shape of 4 pigtails that resemble a 4-leaf clover. While I have my doubts that Azuma approves of the use of his characters on this site, in a way it does increase the brand recognition of the series, and introduces it to people that may not have known about it otherwise. To wrap things up, when I think about what makes this series so great, I come back to how it reminds us of how we can find joy from the little things in life. I didn't really get this when I first read the manga as a kid, but as an adult I realized that there are a lot of small things that we often take for granted. Yotsuba helps remind us that we should appreciate these little things before they've passed us by. For that reason, it is a manga that will always hold a special place in my heart. Well guys, that's all I have for this one. If you would like to purchase the Yotsuba manga or any manga in general, then feel free to use my Right Stuff affiliate link in the description down below. It helps support the channel at no extra cost to you guys. If you enjoyed watching, then please leave a like and subscribe so you're notified when I post new content. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you all have a wonderful day.